Welcome to MELfeed.video. We are commencing a live web stream service via youtube.com from Echuca, Australia. We currently conduct these streams on Monday evenings, with other times to be added as more opportunities arise. Please visit our website MELfeed.video for further information. This web video project presents old and new community TV programs. Please enjoy your stay with MELfeed.video.
Hi and welcome to MELfeed.video for Monday the 4th of February 2019, transmission number 40 as luck would have it. Tonight we've got NAT Chat followed by Etc., which is the first episode of our magazine series which we produced in 1999. We've finally found the master tapes for those, so thank you to David McLaughlin for finding the masters and helping us bring that show to MELfeed. At 9 o'clock Harmony University with Norm, and 9:30 Red Lobster Poetry. At 10 o'clock 15 Fabulous Minutes with Jacqueline and Steve, and then Transports of Distant Delight, the third in the special series just for MELfeed at 10:30, and at 10:45 we close for the night. I'll be back with a little bit more later on, but for now let's head into NAT Chat.
Hello and welcome to NAT Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. Today our guest is Michael Turuli, who was working as a policeman on duty when he had a car accident and sustained spinal injury and other dangerous injuries, but is walking now with crutches and is here to share with us his inspirational story. Welcome to the program, Michael.
Thank you.
Can you tell us about your accident, how you actually had the accident? You're on duty as a police officer at the time.
Yes, I was on duty as a policeman and I was a passenger in the vehicle, so my offsider was driving the car when we had to respond to an incident. The driver was speeding along the highway and en route to the destination point. A car came out of the side street and my driver, in order to avoid a collision, oversteered the car, and unfortunately I ended up against the guardrail.
And what was the damage of your injury? What was the doctor's prognosis?
I suffered horrific injuries. I had a shattered pelvis, I had a crushed lumbar L1 region, and I had major hemorrhaging which required immediate surgery. I almost passed on. Really? Yes, on numerous occasions.
Wow. Yeah. And what was the doctor's prognosis at the end of it? What did they come up when they were able to talk to you and you'd come around and everything? What were they saying?
So after the ICU, for 4 weeks I remained in ICU. So I was transferred to the spinal ward, and I remember the doctor coming up to me and after they had tested all my feeling and movement in my legs, abruptly just said that I would never walk again.
Did they say why? They give reasons, like because the spinal cord wasn't severed, so they didn't.
It was. It's like a crushed injury, so there was no signals going through to the legs, and I've lost all my major functions from the pelvis down.
Right.
I guess all the functions relating to going to the toilet and so forth.
Yeah. And were your legs moving at all at the time?
No.
Nothing was happening?
No.
And how soon did it happen when they started to actually, start to get something back?
I really can't pinpoint a certain date, but I would say probably it felt like I was getting some movement, like flickers in the leg, and the spasms in the muscles and so forth in my legs. Probably, I'd say, a year and a half to 2 years.
So you got your first movement back, which is really interesting because they say usually with spinal cord injury, if you haven't got any spinal injury, if you haven't got any movement within the 6 months with the spinal cord, actually they say that, then it means that you're not getting anything back.
Right.
But so that was a year and...
a year and a half to 2 years, I estimated. But I still couldn't really use my legs, stand up or move as well as I can today, but just those little flickers of muscle was actually, it was more or less some hope for me to then focus on improving on gaining strength.
Right. And what was the first flicker that came back? Was it in the quads? Or?
It was in the quads, yes. Yeah.
And so then you just started to do quad exercises once that...
I think it just came naturally to me when I had that feeling and the movement that I could actually, lying on the side, move my leg, like extension, leg extension.
Yeah. And did you do that with every exercise? As soon as before you even got the flicker back, were you trying to get the movement back?
Well, I think,
even though nothing was visible at the time?
I think mental imagery played a big part in it. Because I would close my eyes and think of the nerves and the pattern of the nerves going down from my brain to my feet, and imagine that they were being stimulated so I could actually improve on that.
Right. And how much time would you say you'd spend on that? Did you do that daily, or was this sort of like a routine you got into?
Yeah, it wasn't daily. It was the times when I thought I would be getting the most out of myself to doing that. When I had strength, when I was in a right mental state of mind, that was probably the best.
Okay, so it's like visualisation, visualising the movement coming back and thinking and feeling it all coming back?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And did you visualise yourself walking before you even walked?
Actually, I did, because when I was given that prognosis by the doctor then and there, I had a mental image of me walking down the street in a suit. I know that sounds weird. Well, who does that?
No, it's just a system of I'm here, you know. I've done it, you know.
I'm far from wearing a suit. I hate wearing suits, but that particular time
or something.
Was, it was actually important for me.
Yeah.
I guess it was an image. Maybe I thought, well, the best I could do was work like as a detective.
Yeah.
Who they wear suits.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I it was more or less of saying, well, I'm going to ignore your prognosis and I will walk. Yeah. You know, one day. I didn't see myself running.
You didn't see yourself running?
No, that would have been good. But yeah, no running. I was walking.
And did you keep in touch with people that were helping you walk? Did you have any like specific person that actually helped, was really positive in your recovery?
I can't say there was a role model. I do think of when I was younger, there was like my judo instructor, and I then would go back and regress. I don't know if regress is the right word, but I would go back into time thinking about reflection, going back in time to see how I went about my judo training, my athletics training, my cross-country training, football. Yeah. So it's a matter of going back into how did I get back into where I left off.
Okay. And just remembering the training and thinking, well, this is what we did then to try and walk. We did. And
that's more retraining. Yeah. But you got to understand that it wasn't in a manner of in sequence that was the process, because amongst all that I was dealing with depression, anger, loss. That was a major part of me during those years. I call it the dark years, but I guess that was that window of hope that I was focusing on. Maybe I can and I will walk.
So yeah, I mean, you have to feel the emotions that you're going through, like all of those things you said.
Yeah, grief.
Exactly. I mean, otherwise you can't move forward because you've got to be true to who you are, but still have that light on of positivity.
Yeah.
We're going to a break now. You're watching NAT Chat. Hope you're enjoying the program. We'll be back with more very shortly.
Hi, I'm Darren McElwain from AirFM Drive. You can tune into my show from 3 to 6 p.m. on 88.0 in Penrith and also on tunein.com. And apparently, we don't throw rocks. AirFM Drive.
For the first time in many years, Northern Access TV's General Interest magazine show, etc., will be seen again on MELfeed.video. The show covered many interesting topics around Melbourne and is well worth seeing again. So see it every Monday night at 8:30 here on MELfeed.video.
Joy, well-being, community, inclusion.
Special Olympics is a global movement for people with an intellectual disability, creating a world of inclusion and community through sport, where every person is accepted and welcomed, regardless of ability. One athlete, one volunteer, one family member at a time, helping to make the world a better place. Join the inclusion revolution by supporting Special Olympics.
And choose to include.
We've all seen this one time or another. We may even have done it ourselves. But inhaling balloon gas is very dangerous and can be fatal. The helium in balloon gas acts as an asphyxiant, and when you inhale, it displaces the oxygen in your lungs. Balloon gas is safe in balloons and when you release it in a well-ventilated area and in a safe manner. So the next time you see some sucker about to inhale balloon gas, or you think it's going to be a laugh, stop and be gas-wise.
Hello and welcome back to NAT Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. If you've just joined us, we're here with Michael Teruli, who's talking about his spinal injuries sustained during a car accident when he was a police officer on duty. Welcome back to the program, Michael.
Great.
And can you tell us, when you got your movement back, you got the quads back from, so it's good, so then they said you were an incomplete spinal injured patient, did they?
Not, they didn't use incomplete, but I became familiar with that terminology later on.
Oh, okay.
So, because obviously the prognosis is that you won't walk again and you're a spinal patient.
Right.
And I was just like everyone else in the wheelchair, learning how to get out of the wheelchair into the car, and that's how I was rehabilitated.
And were they very positive towards you at the hospital? In recovery? In the sense of recovering?
Well, positive. Well, I think that it's encouraging is the word you want to use.
Yeah.
They were. However, I felt like there was a big gap missing for me to then go transition into home living.
Right. Okay. So they weren't stopping you, because I had a similar injury, and when I was there, they kept saying, "You will never walk again. Get it through. You've got to get it through your head. You never walk again." And even though I kept saying, "I will," and I can walk with crutches now, but at the time they were very, very, very much wanting me to believe that I would never walk again.
Yeah. So I think it's what you call institutionalised. They treat you as a number, and I think
wheel them in, wheel them out.
Absolutely, and I think I was a number there.
That's what my sister said, wheel them in, wheel them out, that's what they do. So don't take it personally. No. Yeah.
And you can understand that everyone has different, well, we're all similar with the injuries, but everyone has varying injuries in regards to spinal injuries.
Yeah.
Mine was perhaps unique in a way that I didn't have a total sever of the spinal cord, but it was badly damaged that it required, like, even, I had tractions. Not on the spinal cord, but around, circling the spinal cord.
Right.
Pelvis, holding the pelvis together.
And are they still in there now, or did they take them out?
No, they took it out.
Okay, so they put them inside you?
Yes.
Okay, and then they took them out.
And they were external fixtures, so I had to, for let's say 6 months, turn side to side for every 2 hours.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't move.
And how long were you in hospital for?
Up all, I think it was about 9 months.
Oh, okay, so you were in longer than that. It was 4 months. Well, actually 3 months and 2 weeks, I think it was.
Well, mind you, I had myocardial infarction, which is a heart attack.
Oh, did you? During it all?
In ICU.
Oh, wow.
So I nearly passed away 3 times.
Wow.
Well, actually clinically dead.
Yeah.
And then they revived me.
Wow. Yeah, I was the same on the road on the accident. I was actually resuscitated by a girl, and she said she couldn't breathe through my nose. And she couldn't breathe through my mouth because my teeth were like clenched, and then so she started to breathe through my nose. Yeah. And brought me back to life. And here I am now.
Yes, well, I didn't see any angels or anything. There was no light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, I do recall something though. I visualised this waiting in the pool with a naked woman behind me who was supporting. I know, it was great. I didn't want to get out of it. But then all of a sudden I woke up and I've gone, where's the naked lady in the pool?
Oh, I think you're just making this up on the spot.
No, I actually thought it was actually happening. So the nurses,
really,
the
is
doctors,
this true?
yeah,
You're like hallucinating
they
or something?
looking at each other, going, "What's going on?"
It's all the
with him?
morphine they give you.
I think it might have
Yeah,
been
they
morphine.
give you so much morphine. It's awful. It's terrible. I remember I actually said to them, "Please stop giving me the morphine. I do not want it." And they said, "But you need it." And I said, "I don't care. I don't want it.
Oh.
And I will just endure a bit of pain. I'd rather endure a bit of pain than, you know, not have my faculties."
I think I needed the morphine. I was in absolute pain
I
because
know,
I
it's
was
a killer.
conscious
It is
throughout the
killer.
whole
Yeah.
thing.
Oh, right.
I was conscious throughout the
Yeah.
whole accident. I was in an immense pain.
Yeah.
So when they actually got the morphine into me in the car, because I was trapped, I couldn't get out.
Yeah.
To relieve the pain, it was a relief.
Gosh, it must have been such a traumatic shock as these things are. They're just like the worst. And as you started to get movement back, you got the quads back. What was the next part of muscular movement you got back?
I can't then again pinpoint because it's like over time.
Yeah.
Look, I think going through physio, it was more or less working on the glutes, like the buttocks, trying to get them activated. Adductors, abductors, calves, all those muscles of the leg, the major muscles.
And did you go to the physio regularly to get those exercises done?
I did start to go to the physio regularly, yes. And we went through a lot of the exercises, and I've gone through a lot of physios until I actually found the right one.
And now you feel like you've got the right one, or you did have the right one?
I did have the right one, and I moved on from him, and then I found another guy.
Who's better?
Yeah.
Okay. So we just whatever your needs are at the time, I guess.
Absolutely.
You've got to change with the needs you're going through.
Because at the beginning you don't know what to do and what's best for your body, because it's almost like, okay, what do I do now? And I need advice. Yeah. And any advice will do at this stage. But when you become familiar with your body, and when you're in tune with your body, you go, okay, I know what I need. So you go out and see the best person that is right for you.
And how did you find out who the best person was?
I actually sought out my original surgeon who looked after me at the Austin Hospital.
Oh, okay.
Dr. Lim.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I say his name?
Yeah.
There's a plug for you, Dr. Lim. At the Northeast Rehabilitation Centre.
Oh, so you weren't at Austin Hospital?
I was at the Austin Hospital, but this is like years later.
Oh, okay.
Which is a separate organisation, but they deal with rehabilitation services for people.
Oh, so later. And so he advised you for some good physios.
And then he actually recommended me to go to a physiotherapist based on what he knew of the group.
And they were good physios that you went to?
Yeah, they were great.
Yeah. And so they were encouraging?
They were encouraging, yeah. They pushed me around, slapped me around,
Oh, that's good. They got you moving.
They did. You got me moving.
So they were like what I had. You'll never walk again, can't you get it through to your head? So I had a lovely one. But anyway, I don't know how people.
Yeah, I think you get different people. You get different people telling you how to get by. I'm sure they probably said it in a positive manner. No, this wasn't. No, this is like it'll never leave my mind those words, the way she said it. But anyway, you forgive and you forget, and we don't forget really, but you try and move on and be positive. True.
In that note, we have to move on and have a break.
Oh, good, so I can have my glass of vodka as well.
You're watching NAT Chat. I'm Mirella Rich, and we'll be back very shortly.
About Australia is Adelaide Central Market. It's where I grew up, hanging out with Mum and great Auntie Kim. I see a lot of migrants buying ingredients that they need to cook dishes that remind them of their culture. And I think that's why food is such a powerful thing when it comes to people understanding each other. On Australia Day, I'm going to come to the market, buy some beautiful produce, take it home, crank out the pizza oven and have a little pool party with my mates.
Get together on Australia Day. Go to australiaday.org.au to find out how.
Tick, 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 fashion.
Tick, 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 fun.
Tick, 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 food.
Tick, 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 festivals.
All makeup. 15 fabulous minutes.
In a half-hour special.
Presented to you by Jacqueline and Steve.
Every week. Time's up.
Transports of Distant Delight is a mixed selection of transportation pictures from here and there and almost everywhere, but not quite. Some quirky, some mundane, some from the past, perhaps reflecting a transit system that has vanished into history, and some from thriving transport entities that continue to endure despite the constant pressures from the all-pervasive motorcar. Enjoy. Do you currently have a community service announcement on free-to-air television? If you do, you can now submit it to us as well via our website at MELfeed.video. We have lots of time to fill on these broadcasts, and we are sure to give your announcement a great run on MELfeed.video.
Hello and welcome back to NAT Chat. I'm Mirella Rich. If you've just joined us, we've got Michael Taruli here, who sustained a spinal injury while working as a police officer on duty in the car. He had an accident. Welcome back to the program, Michael.
Oh, I'm drinking water, by the way. So.
Drinking water, of course. No one drinks alcohol anymore these days. It's junk. We like to be healthy and fit.
Absolutely.
That's one thing it makes you do, is be healthy and fit, doesn't it?
Correct.
Makes you sort of try and clean your diet up, eat healthy, be as fit as you can.
And I think it spiritually makes you stronger too.
Yeah. In what ways does it affect you spiritually, would you say?
The whole accident,
yeah,
and leading from the accident.
Yeah.
Oh, look, initially I was damaged.
Yeah.
Yes, I was damaged spiritually.
Before the accident or after the accident?
After.
Yeah.
So, you know, you'd question why.
Mm.
In fact, when I got home from my rehab,
mm.
I think I did, in fact, break down emotionally and asked why. I asked God why.
Yeah, why did this happen to me?
Why did this happen to me?
Mm.
Looking for answers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it is kind of, I remember thinking that too. I was thinking, what would be the point in making me learn to walk again when I could already walk? What's the value in it? It's just like, I've already done that, been there, done that. As a baby, I learned to walk. Why do I have to do it again?
Well, I was questioning whether it was punishment.
Yeah.
I couldn't work out.
Yeah.
Why? For what wrong did I deserve this?
Yeah. I remember my mum thought it was that too. She said to me, I can't believe you're doing all these really good things and God punishes you. She was so angry. She goes, I can't understand why God punished you. And then I told asked my friends who were Catholic, and I said to them, what do you think? And they said, no, God's not punishing you. God is love. He's not punishing you. He's love. You just need to look for God's love in it. And then you take the angle in a different way. You look at it as just trying to find God's love in everything that happens to you. And it's hard, it's hard because it's initial shock, because before that, like, I was dancing and tightrope walking, trapeze, everything. And then 1 minute you're doing that, and then the next minute you're not. It's just like, it's the biggest shock of your entire life. Your whole body's, it's just frightening. Yeah.
So from that point on, I think it was about reinventing yourself.
Yes, yeah.
And how to adapt into your new life of being disabled and coping.
I never use that word.
Actually, it's not a word used these days. And
I don't use it. I just say person.
They discourage people.
Oh, do they? I haven't heard
to use disabled because it's actually saying you aren't able to do anything.
It's a put down. Yeah.
So you are able to do anything you can, but you only have a limitation physically.
Yeah.
Or other disabilities, I guess.
Yeah.
Everyone has the potential to do something, but they are limited to the extent that they can't do as much as people with abled abilities. And
when you cried out for help, well, did you actually cry out to God to help you, or did you just say, why me? Or what was the actual situation?
I really can't recall. I just know that I was to the point of...
I'm the police investigator here.
No, no, I'm on the receiving end. I don't like it at I think it was more finding answers as to why this happened.
Yeah. And did you feel like you found any along the way?
I guess in a way it was also a cry for help.
During your rehab, did you ever feel like...
No, I think the answers were very, very long and slow.
Yeah.
It just didn't come overnight or many years after, I think.
Yeah. And they satisfied you, the answers you got?
I think so. I think they're getting there.
What were the
Not
answers?
quite there.
What were the answers you got?
I think it was just I think I was just on the wrong road of. I mean, maybe policing wasn't the right career for me. I think that wasn't a reflection of my personality, or it was probably not. I think there was another career path for me other than that.
Yeah.
And maybe I was losing my sense of self, I guess. I didn't really...
Okay. Did you feel like you changed a lot since your accident, or is it just like you think, well, I'm changing because I'm getting older anyway, so my mind is getting wiser, you know? Or did anything from the accident help you grow in a certain way?
It's an interesting question. I think not really. I think the accident was, if anything, made me angry.
An obstacle.
It was actually, it was the other way.
Yeah.
And I think I needed a few years of getting that frustration out. Probably not in the best way at the time, because I actually, went out drinking and that, and I don't advocate that as a means of coping, which was the wrong way of going about it. But that's the only thing I knew
at that
how
time.
to cope.
Yeah.
It was a challenging period for me. So I think that was probably a way of finding or exploring answers to why this had all happened. And
did you have any particular people in your life that helped you in any way along the way? Like, I don't know, that helped you achieve more things? I think a friend of mine had put things into perspective, so I can able to see what it all meant and where I was going, to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. And Michael, have you reached any other positive conclusions since having this accident in other areas of your life?
I think basically as I was recovering and going to physio, I think it brought me back to basics. What I mean by that is that I went to then look at getting into fitness, swimming, going to the gym. These things were actually sustaining me. And also food intake. I was very not cautious, but I was aware of what I was taking in would nourish my body. So I was very selective of what I was eating. So these things were actually of great benefit and enabled me to look positively.
Yeah, that's true.
In my health.
Anyway, we have to finish the show now. Would you like to come again next week?
Okay.
Can we twist your arm? You've been watching NAT Chat. I'm Mirella Rich, and our guest Michael Teruli will be back again next week. Stay tuned.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
Hello, and welcome to Northern Access Television's new magazine program, etc. I'm Dave McLaughlin. Over the coming weeks, we will be bringing you stories that we hope you'll find interesting and varied. Later in today's program, we'll be taking a look at the collection of fine art collector Aubrey Gibson. But first we find out about the work of the Australian Caption Centre. This is the organisation that's responsible for captioning television programs for deaf and hearing impaired viewers. As you can see, they've captioned the first half of this program in order to demonstrate their work. Miranda Roberts is their facilities manager here in Melbourne.
The Australian Caption Centre is a national not-for-profit organisation. We were established in 1982, originally by government grant. A year after that we became self-sufficient, and now captioning is funded by the networks and commercial sponsorship. What we do is caption television programs for deaf and hearing impaired viewers, and in Australia there are over 1.7 million deaf and hearing impaired people. So we put captions on television programs, TV commercials, community service announcements, videos as well, so that they can actually understand the audio component of a TV program. Captions that we make for deaf people are a bit different to SBS captions. For instance, we like to make everything perfectly clear so that it's very easy to understand. So for instance, we give captions different colours. Each speaker in a scene is allotted their own colour, as we will be in this interview, so that people can always tell who's speaking, even if they're off screen or their face is obscured. We also include things like sound effects. There was a creaking door, and that is authentic. We really do need to oil our door. Phone rings, that kind of thing, dog barks, we do put all those sound effects in. We describe music, anything that really gets the message across to viewers. So that's what the Caption Centre does. We caption television programs.
Who apart from deaf people can benefit from the captions?
Well, besides deaf and hearing impaired people, and remembering hearing impairment is on the increase with an ageing population, other people do use captions. For instance, people learning English. They find that reading English language programs with English language text actually helps them learn the language. We also do some captioning in foreign languages. So, for instance, we might put Asian captions on an English language program. They're often educational videos or health and safety related videos, things like that.
How does it actually work, and what sort of equipment does the viewer need to get the captions? Because you don't normally see them on TV?
That's right. The captions on television are called closed captions. That means that you can only actually see them if you have the right equipment. The equipment that you need is a thing called a decoder, and that's built into the television or VCR. Most major brands do make decoder televisions. However, VCRs are much harder to find. One manufacturer who made them has just stopped, but hopefully someone else will introduce it back into Australia. So television decoders are the main piece of equipment available. The whole system is run through teletext, which is a service available across all the networks, and it gives you all kinds of information from racing results, weather reports, finance reports, to captions, and the captions are accessed through page 801. So that means anyone with a teletext TV is able to see captions on any program that carries them. They simply plug in the number 801 and the captions appear on the screen. Open captions mean that the captions are burnt onto the tape, like the ones you're seeing now. We've open captioned this program so that people know what teletext looks like. But normally, if you're watching TV, obviously you don't see these unless you have the appropriate equipment.
What sort of programs are captioned, and how many?
Well, there's a lot of captioned material on Australian television. Currently around 57% of prime time is captioned, and depending on the day, it might even be up to 100%. A huge range of programs. We caption things like movies, the major movies on, say, Wednesday and Sunday nights across all the networks. Most of the ABC is captioned, drama series. We do news and current affairs. That includes the ABC News. We have captioners in every state in Australia captioning the ABC News, so everyone can get that. SBS World News is also captioned. Then we do things like sitcoms, including American programs where we import the caption files, Australian programs like Neighbours, Home and Away, Blue Heelers, they're captioned, and TV commercials are also captioned.
How does an ordinary viewer find out if a program is captioned?
They look in a TV guide, and if they see an S next to the name of the program, that means that it's captioned. Also, if you're just watching television and at the start of a program you see a funny S shape in the corner, that also means there are captions. It stands for super text, which are the captions made by the Australian Caption Centre.
You mentioned before videos are captioned. How are those different from TV programs?
Videos are different because, for a start, you don't use the teletext decoder to view the captions. There are two kinds of videos available. One is open captioned. That means, as I mentioned before, the captions are burnt onto the tape, so you can play them in a normal VCR with a normal TV and the captions will be there all the time. You can't turn them on and off. Those videos are available through, for instance, local libraries. It's always worth checking your local library in case they carry them. Or you can buy them through the National Film and Sound Archive. People can ask us for information. We can send out a video catalogue that tells you which videos have got open captions. Closed caption videos mean that they're not visible in a normal piece of equipment. You do need to have a decoder. Unfortunately, it's a different decoder to the one used for teletext. It's called a line 21 decoder. But if you do have a line 21 decoder, you can watch all sorts of videos. Most current release videos available through a video shop do have those closed captions on them. So there's a lot out there, but you do need to have a different piece of equipment.
What is the future going to see for captioning, particularly with the advent of digital TV, etc.?
Well, the amount of captioning is definitely going to increase. There's already legislation in place to make captioning compulsory on all primetime news and current affairs by 1st of January 2001. So that is definite, that will happen. As deaf groups get together and mobilise themselves, lobby government, lobby the TV networks, captioning will increase as well. Digital won't affect the accessibility of captions. People will still receive captions, and as I said, the amount of captioning is going to increase.
As we have just heard from Miranda, the captioners of the Australian Caption Centre work on a wide variety of programs. Kirsty Reeve is one who works on the captioning of live as well as pre-recorded shows.
Well, there's a few of us that do both online and offline. Offline is what's being done here, which are pre-recorded shows, things like Neighbours and Sale of the Century. Online is also called real time, which is live programs, which is what I'm going to head off to do very shortly. In Melbourne we do the ABC News.
What sort of differences are there between doing it offline and online?
There's actually quite a few differences. I mean, basically all the colouring, positioning, etc. is the same. The main difference would be that with offline we actually have a word per second standard, number of words per second, which we try not to put more than 3 words per second up on screen, which is the normal reading speed, because otherwise if there's a scene where there's an argument or something, quite often that'll be so fast that if you put everything that was set up on screen, there would just not be enough time to actually read it. Whereas at the news, because especially most of the journalists and presenters are trained to speak at about 3 words per second, we actually caption every word, but we actually cue it to air live. So there's really no way that we know beforehand how long it's going to take, and if they're running behind on a RVO, for instance, and the sound up's in 3 seconds, they might just absolutely scoot through it. But yeah, that's just part of the live captioning.
Now, is it all done off a script, or do you at any stage have to caption while they're actually speaking?
Oh yeah, we mostly we have access to the Basis, which is the ABC's computer system, and we copy, or we basically cut and paste the scripts from Basis over onto our computer. Then we will hopefully get the tape version, the cut version of that story before it goes to air, in which case we then go through and make sure there hasn't been any changes in the editing booth, all the words are correct, make sure that they haven't changed grabs at the last minute, and also with the grabs or talent people that they interview during the story, we position the captions on screen so that it doesn't cover any supers which will come up on screen at the time, or their mouth, because a lot of hearing impaired viewers still like to lip read, and we don't like to cover up mouths because obviously they don't have the option there. And sometimes we have to do it live to air. When there's a live cross, there's just no way around it. We just basically type damn fast. Up in Sydney they have steno captioners who are like court reporters that actually the main thing they do up there is 7:30 report, and that actually comes up on screen as word by word. It looks much different, but a lot different actually, but because none of us are actually steno captioners and we don't have the equipment down here or any other state except Sydney for that matter, we just basically summarise what's being said. We use short forms in both online and offline, which, for instance, an example is a short form for Australia. We might type in AUS, and then when we hit a punctuation mark or a space, it actually automatically fills in the rest of it. So we just hit AUS space and it comes out as Australia. We try and use them during live crosses, but often we don't actually have a chance to create them beforehand, and quite often you hit the wrong one anyway, and you end up with things like, yes, there was a bushfire today and breaststroke in the middle of it, which has happened. So there's some amusing errors that have gone to air, but it's live captioning, and there's really, the live crosses don't come up often enough to actually warrant steno captioners being used all the time, and I think we're getting pretty good at it. Most of us have been doing it for 2 years now, so we're pretty good at getting the essence of what's being said and putting it up on screen.
I would like to add that if people want to know more about captions, how they work, what equipment they need, which programs are captioned, they can contact us at the Australian Caption Centre. Oh, here's a sound effect. You should be seeing phone rings. You'll notice the different colours. That signifies a sound effect. You get to know different colour schemes that we use to indicate different things. Anyway, sorry, as I was saying, people can contact either our Melbourne office here. We have a TTY, so people, deaf and hearing impaired people with TTYs can call us directly, and the number is 03 9696 1996. And we also have a free call number at our head office in Sydney, and I'll have to look this number up. It's 1800 777 801, and the 801 is to remind you that you access the supertext captions through 801 through the teletext service. So yeah, people can write to us, we'll send them an information kit.
Every time we buy certified organic, we're making a choice to help our environment and build a healthier community. But it can be hard to know that what we're buying is truly organic. The Australian Certified Organic logo is only given to products after a very rigorous process. So when you see this logo, it means you can trust that there are no genetically modified foods, no animal cruelty, and no harsh synthetic pesticides used. A healthier community is always better for our future. So the next time you shop, look for this logo.
I was in my 40s when I was first diagnosed with bowel cancer. George, my son, was 6 years old at that time. These days, like people of his age, he's very busy, but he still needs to find the time to get to know his bowel cancer risk. Is that right, George?
Yes, Dad. Bowel cancer affects 1 in 12 Australians, young and old, and is our second biggest cancer killer. But if caught early, bowel cancer is treatable and beatable. My dad is living proof of that. So get to know your bowel cancer risk. Talk to your pharmacist or GP about screening. Protect yourself and the ones you love. Go to lovemyfamily.org.au.
Hi, I'm Lane Beachley. Australians have recycled enough printer cartridges to cover Bondi Beach 12 times. That's kept 11,000 tonnes of valuable resources out of landfill. Drop your used original cartridges into the special boxes at participating retail outlets, and they'll be turned into new products from pens to road surfaces. Help us keep up the good work. Find out more at cartridges.planetark.org.
It's barbie season, so it's time for a barbecue safety check. Clean away any grease build-up. Swap systems assure that the bottle inspection is in date. The bottle should be upright and not hanging by the hose. And make sure your regulator and hose is undamaged, unblocked and unkinked. Check connections using soapy water. When done, turn off clockwise at the bottle first. A quick barbie and gas safety check always means a safe and enjoyable summer.
Welcome back to Etc. In the 50s and 60s, and up until his death in 1973, Aubrey Gibson was one of the few large private art collectors in Australia. His collection encompassed many Australian artists of his time, as well as a wide range of overseas works, and was widely regarded as one of the finest private post-war collections in Australia. Late in 1998, a number of works from his collection were exhibited for sale at the Melbourne Fine Art Gallery. At the time, I spoke to Aubrey's son John about his father's passion for art. John, I guess the question I want to ask you is, in your experience with your father, what makes a person a collector?
Okay, well, I suppose I can answer that in two ways. One is the short one, which I think you'd say is great love and passion for something, allied with the means to collect, which is probably self-evident. In the historical terms, I can explain that in my father's case, in that he'd gone to university and then went to the art school in 1920, realised that he was a very good caricaturist, but was basically not going to be an artist. For many years, I think he'd maintained this great interest. And then after the war, he had a business, and the business, as I understand, was fairly profitable. It enabled him to acquire, at a time when there were a lot of Australian artists, predominantly, they were the larger part of the collection, some of whom were known, some of whom were not, and he always exhibited considerable taste, and the collection itself is a very cosmopolitan, diverse thing, not only Australian artists, but from all around the world, from different countries. But and you have to remember that at that time it was not the sort of fashionable thing where, as we all know, multi-millionaires, billionaires end up collecting art, and whereas at that time there may have been a handful of Australians who had private collections which were recognised. So my father then collected various works. The Dabel you see up there, 1933 it was painted, but my father basically acquired paintings from the 30s, but predominantly painted in the 50s and 60s. Some earlier works, there's a Tom Roberts over there. And when he went on overseas trips, that's him sort of staring at me over the shoulder, so I better get this right. He went on overseas trips quite frequently for business and for pleasure, and he would go to countries like, for example, Central America, where he first went in 1958, and there's another work up there which is really quite a sort of powerful piece, and from Guatemala, and he would buy things that he liked, and I suppose the passion, the means to do it, and also I suppose opportunity, and hopefully the right place at the right time, and if you ally that with taste, which he certainly had, and I think is reflected in a lot of the works you see now.
I'm interested in what actually makes a collection a good collection. What's your opinion of what is a good collection, and why is your father's a good collection?
I think what makes a good collection is that the person who collects should have some taste. And remember, I suppose beauty is in the eye of the beholder in art, and so there'll be works here that some people will not necessarily like and others they'll really be attracted to. But I think a good collection, I mean, there can be collections that sort of focus on one particular period or one particular artist or what have you. I think the great characteristic virtue of this collection was that it was eclectic, and I think it was recognised as such. And in 1969, when the National Gallery of Victoria had an exhibition for 10 weeks of 100 selected works, and there are about 30 of those here, that reflected this eclectic nature of the collection, and I think it was a good collection because there were some very, very important works in it. Nearly everybody in Australia was represented, and there were some overseas works which of artists who may not necessarily be known today, but at the time were recognised. So, look, all collections have sort of relate to a period. I think another element in answering your question is that while some of these works may have dated in the sense they're no longer popular, that there are enough works here which people come into and say, look, that's fantastic, I want it. And in terms of what Brian Colley has done here, and I say my wife as well, who's been working with him, you know, having picked all these different works out, there are just a large number of them that could have been sold many times over. So it's interesting that here in 1998, for someone who basically ceased collecting nearly 30 years ago, and works which effectively, all of which were collected 30 years ago or more, that there are people who can walk in here and say, look, that's something I'm really attracted to, I really want to buy it.
In terms of the international aspect of the exhibition, how you mentioned your father went overseas and would collect works of overseas artists, how do you think that reflected his day and trends in art from then on?
Look, I think that he was quite adventurous, which was fairly, I think, atypical. In fact, probably really quite extraordinary at the time. And one of the examples, of course, is the fact that in the 50s and 60s, he began, having made a number of trips to Japan, he began collecting contemporary Japanese art. And now, I mean, if that wasn't, given the historical context, if that wasn't sort of out of left field, I don't know what is. So, but he went to Japan, he made friends there, people in the artistic world. He used to correspond with a professor at Kyoto University called Toro Mori, who was himself an artist, was a very distinguished Japanese academic in the art world. He had an affinity with Japan, and he had an affinity with other cultures as well. But there he was collecting that. I think I mentioned before about Central America. The centrepiece of one of these is this Ecuadorian painting called Rondadores. Well, you know, it's a painting that clearly has got a sort of feel to it and is very striking. He collected works from the Philippines, all the European countries, so France and Italy, particularly France, from Scandinavia, from America. Even one thing I haven't mentioned, which I remember very clearly, went to South Africa for the first time and was invited to Soweto and ended up buying a couple of small sculptures, one of which was I think was a Christ figure, just a small sculpture, and it was just a very beautiful work, which I think he ultimately ended up giving to the National Gallery. But he'd be in a different context, in a different cultural context, and he would be attracted to something, and he wouldn't just sort of stop there. He'd go that step further, and he'd buy it.
How do you think your father's passion for art and for collecting affected you and the rest of your family?
I was a bit blasé about it, I think there's a way to say. Sort of as a teenager growing up in a room, you know, this size and larger, full of works of art, as that photograph at the back shows, that was what it was like. And I mean, I knew what I liked. I suppose that's one of the good things about it. I've always had an interest, and you know, we've collected a few smaller things over the years. But I just don't think that I had that sort of passion, and I certainly haven't had the means. I mean, what was imbued, I think, was certainly an appreciation and an interest, and I'm very grateful for that.
How intact has your family been able to keep the collection since your father's death?
You know, reasonably intact, but, you know, for example, when my mother moved from a large house to a flat, and that necessitated being sold. Now she's 91 and she's in a nursing home. That necessitated this particular sale. Various things have been sold over the years, but the family's kept certain works, and we hopefully will continue to.
Did your father have any strong views on that?
Look, he was a person who, when he collected something, he very, very sort of rarely sold anything except in his last few years. There was no prescription when he died as to keep it together, and in fact one of those things, I suppose, you're not going to live necessarily for something that your father has done, and you know, there's no sanctity attached to the collection, but nonetheless, and that's one of the good things about this exhibition.
Every time we buy certified organic, we're making a choice to help our environment and build a healthier community. But it can be...
that essentially it reflects very much the essence of what he was and what the collection was, and people get an understanding of what collecting and what a collection is like. But he never sort of said, like, look, you know, over my dead body, literally.
Do you think your father would probably take the attitude that he had his chance to enjoy this art and now other people should have a chance to buy it?
Look, I think he even though it was private collection, it wasn't, the gallery wasn't open publicly, he always encouraged young people, people who wanted to see it would come, people who were researching, people who were visiting the country who were interested in art would come. There's a fellow, Terry Whelan, who's well known as a collector, said to me on the opening night, he said, look, I'll never forget your father when I was 19 doing fine art. He invited me to the house and he sat me down and talked to me about collecting, talked to me about art. And this is Terry, sort of nearly 40 years down the track, says to me that this is something. So, you know, I think that's particularly important. As far as we're concerned, it's a great pleasure. A number of Brian's clients and friends of ours, even other people, have come and have bought things, and it's really lovely to know that certain works are going off to certain houses, you know, and to friends and people who really appreciate and really liked it. It's wonderful that people come. A lot of people have been through here and they have appreciated what he was and what he did and what he brought together and what he maintained and you know, recognised him as a genuine article, the genuine collector.
And that's all for our program today. Be sure and join us again. Goodbye.
Performance poetry comes your way with Red Lobster every Monday night at 9:30. Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
Alleluia. Om Mani Padme Om. Allah Sat
Welcome. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and today we're speaking with Ron Laurie, who's a specialist in human development and value systems. On this program, as you'll be aware, our first program deals with the spiritual background for a person to establish the basis from which they operate, and then a series of following programs will explore how that relates to life and where they bring value into community. Thanks for coming, Ron.
You're welcome.
Now, as I just said, let's have a look at your spiritual background, right from the day you were born. What were you born as?
What was I born as? I was born as a boy.
Yeah, good.
And christened as Ron Laurie.
As Ron Laurie, yes.
Into the lovely land of Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes back a few years.
Mm.
Yeah.
And the faith structure that you were born into?
Well, yeah, predominantly Church of Scotland as a faith structure. It was the kind of predominant way in which most of our family and our relatives were brought up in a Church of Scotland environment.
Mm.
Yeah.
And that's a Protestant church, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Yes, it is. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And was your family very religious? Was it a sort of a fairly strong?
Not overtly. There was. I do recall at times when my mother and father did go along to church, but that kind of fell away from my perspective and my observations over a period of time. So it wasn't overtly religious, the kind of environment that I grew up in.
Well, what was Scotland like in those days from a spiritual perspective? Was it a strongly Christian value systems, or?
It was very segregated because where I grew up, and Scotland has got this reputation of Catholicism and Protestants. And that's fairly set in the culture because you go to a Protestant school or you go to a Catholic school.
Okay.
You support where I came from, which was Glasgow. You support Rangers, which was Protestants, or Celtic, which was Catholics. So right from the beginning, there was always a divisional sort of emphasis of who were you? Were you a Proddy or were you a Catholic? And that was the kind of environment that you grew up with. And I was a Protestant and born into a Protestant and Christian environment.
So in that context, which causes you to reflect on actually who you are, what did being a Protestant really mean?
Well, being a Protestant, what that really meant was that I was, I wouldn't say corralled, but I was expected to be part of the Boys' Brigade, which was the kind of Church of Scotland's youth group. And I couldn't have gone to anything else but the Boys' Brigade. Some friends I had in the neighbourhood who were Catholics could go to Scouts, but that wasn't for Protestants. Protestants had to go to the Boys' Brigade. And I had a strong family tradition of which there were a number of Boys' Brigade leaders in the family.
It's an interesting division there. And so that this is in behaviour. What about the spiritual side of it? How strongly was that reinforced?
Well, there was always, of course, Boys' Brigade happened on a Friday night and you were expected to go to Bible study on Bible class on a Sunday morning.
Okay.
And so that was the religious and the scripture exposure that I had as a youth, but it never penetrated. It never penetrated. It was an aside to what was really most important as a youth, and that was just hanging around with your mates and having a good time.
Yes.
And so latterly, when one looks back, one can pick up on some of the things that were taught there, and it did have an impact. Christianity did have an impact later on in my life, but not at that part of my early life in Scotland. No.
So you were, say, 15, 16, Did you go to a religious school?
No, it was just a normal school, general school. It was a Protestant-orientated school.
Right.
And yeah, that was...
So where did your spirituality start to manifest itself? What age were you? What place were you when that happened?
Well, it's an interesting question, because some of my early recollections of what I would call now as a sort of mystical experience happened on the way to school. It never happened in the Boys' Brigade. It never happened in school, but happened on the way to school.
Really?
Yeah. And it came about because I guess I was a kind of introspective kind of kid. But I always remember walking to school and repeating to myself consistently, and it was kind of like a self-referential, where I was saying, this is me, this is who I am, this is who I am right now, this is me walking down this street right now, here and now, I am here right now, walking down this street. And I was trying to reference and find out exactly what it was that I was by asking myself those questions. And on occasion, I used to experience quite a profound sense of, I'm not sure if it was elatedness, but it was a kind of profound sense of being acutely aware of a life force that was with me. And it used to quite startle me, and it scared me a little bit. I thought, there was a little bit of a Fruit Loop.
Yes, around breakfast time, that could be right. Being a Fruit Loop, there's also a time essence here, and what you're describing when we talk later about integral theory, that's the seeds were obviously sown for you there. We'll take a break. We'll be back in a moment.
To every child's development, an important message from the Australian Toy Association.
Every time you shop, the choices you make affect our community. It is important to select Australian products made by Aussie-owned companies. Our food security means quality and peace of mind. Your purchasing power keeps your dollars multiplying in our economy, keeping jobs, profits and decisions being made right here, which is better for your children.
So the next time you buy, look for the AusBuy logo. It makes all the difference.
Are you playing renovation roulette? I'm John Jarrett. Now I know that deadly asbestos lies hidden in 1/3 of Aussie homes. It can be found in any home built or renovated before 1987. Lurking in walls, under floor covering, behind tiles, in roofing. Asbestos, it was used everywhere. So if you're a renovator or a tradie, you could be risking your life and the lives of others. Remember, go slow. Asbestos, it's a no-go. Visit asbestosawareness.com.au to learn what you need to know.
Australian women need to kiss more. Watch out for persistent and unusual symptoms, as they could be a sign of ovarian cancer. Know the important signs and symptoms. Kiss. Look out for symptoms like abdominal or back pain, difficulty eating or feeling full quickly, or persistent bloating, or a change in toilet habits. If you're experiencing persistent and unusual symptoms for more than 14 days, see a GP. Make sure you kiss regularly.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and today we're speaking with Ron Laurie, who's a specialist in human potential and the development of value systems. And talking about value systems, when we went to the break, you were speaking about this experience you had as a child, which was quite revealing. It was an internal focus. This is who I am. I am here. How did that manifest itself later? Was that the roots of something which developed within you?
Absolutely. It became a constant way of inquiry for me. I was always trying to reconcile exactly what those experiences were. And, you know, I didn't find it in institutions like the Boys Brigade or the church. But they gave me little inklings to other people who had those kind of experiences. But mine was a kind of like a spontaneous, without any guidance kind of experience, which I would describe now as a little bit of a state change, which I went through while I was going through those sorts of self-inquiry questions.
Did it ever, have you gone down a more spiritual, religion-based process? Have you followed that path at all?
Absolutely, yes, I have. I mean, if I think about if I just take on that sort of experience with the Boys Brigade, for instance, what that mainly involved was hanging around with your mates. And it was quite a violent environment. It was the kind of place where abuse did happen. And it was anything but a Christian kind of institution. From my experience as a boy in that environment. And so that was a little bit of a mystery to me. What was being said and what was being preached was certainly not what was being manifest in the institution. So I kind of had an experience of when I was with those instances with other boys, where we used to go away to Boys Brigade camp once a year. That's the only reason why we went to Boys Brigade, was so we could go away to Boys Brigade camp, which in a sense turned into quite, drink, theft, violence with the local boys where we went to camp. So it was anything but. And that had a lot of guilt associated with it at one point in my life. And one of the profound experiences I had when I had an opportunity to shed that guilt, and I went along to the Usher Hall in Edinburgh to a evangelical gathering, and it was called Let God Speak. And I was given the opportunity to go forward and to give to Jesus all those things which I had guilt of. And I had a really profound change experience. It was kind of like a weight off my back with that guilt, which was, in a sense, a spiritual experience for me. But it didn't stop there.
It didn't. No. But once again, there's a small seed there of something that we'll talk about a bit in this program or later, about managing change, because that sounds to me like managing change. And where did it roll on to from there? As you said, that wasn't the last of those experiences.
Well, all through my youth, I had experiences where I used to wander. I was quite fortunate that where I lived, I could wander off into the hills and into the moors and find myself on top of mountains and hills where I could just lie back on top of the heather and lay myself out prostrate and look up and just wonder about life and about existence. And in those instances, then I had, a feeling of oneness. Which is often, talked about in religious sort of context. But those experiences weren't in a religious environment. They were always outside of the religious environment, the most profound ones.
So that allowing for the difference, using the different term between religion and spirituality, that they were spiritual experiences. You recognised them as spiritual experiences.
They were.
Yes.
And in my trying to reconcile those spiritual experiences, I did try to do that within a religious context and within religious institutions, but it never quite felt right, or it never quite worked out for me. So I moved on from those institutions once experienced them.
So your experience with the evangelical church, did you stay with it for long?
I stayed with it for quite a while, actually. I was responsible when I first came to Australia in 1982. Myself and my wife were responsible for planting 2 or 3 different churches in the Melbourne area.
Oh, really?
And I was a youth leader, and I was maybe a lay pastor, or I never went through the ministerial credentialed route, but I was allowed to lead communion. I was allowed to lead some services, and that was, in a sense, a satisfying period of time for me. But I guess I have always been curious, and so I kept on asking questions.
Yes.
And asking questions. And sometimes the questions I asked got me into trouble. And sometimes the questions I asked were actually upsetting to some others. But I couldn't let go of that experience, which I wanted to fully, firmly understand as me and my experience. And within the religious context, it didn't quite work out.
Just interesting that you were allowed to give communion. Communion, of course, doesn't have the same intensity as, say, the Eucharist with the Catholic faith. But did you connect with any spiritual awareness at the point of doing a communion?
Absolutely. I mean, some of the, again, throughout my life, there's been these spiritual experiences. And, in some of those evangelical environments, when the singing and the music was so uplifting.
Yes.
With such a profound sense of spirituality in those, which used to remind me of the spiritual experiences I had prior to that. It was the same thing. It was the same phenomenological experience, which was part of me, which had the same themes.
And the key part of phenomenology is, in fact, time, and we've run out of it. So we'll go to a break. We'll be back in a moment.
We reckon one of the most powerful things in the world is this sausage, because a sausage can do just about anything. It helps people to walk, see and hear, supports families after fire, drought and flood, and even helps plant trees in our community. Our sausages are working to cure cancer, helping farmers in tough times, and connecting people who are new to a community. And at the same time that they're doing all that, they're nurturing the leaders of tomorrow while building friendships that last a lifetime. Yep, these humble sausages are more powerful than you can believe. They're working wonders in our community. And at Lions, so can you. Lions Australia, we serve more than sausages.
If you choose to text while driving,
you could ruin lives.
Someone else's, your family's, or your own.
Choose not to instead.
The right choice could save someone's life.
Proud supporters of safety in our community.
GMCU and Southern Cross Austereo.
We can change lives forever. Together, we're able.
Able Australia. Together, we're able.
Every day, in many ways, the Royal Flying Doctor Service takes the finest care to Australia's furthest corners so that all Australians can enjoy the best of health. The Royal Flying Doctor Service has been taking care of Australians for over 80 years. But we still need your help to continue providing emergency rescue and essential health care to remote and rural communities. Make a donation or become a supporter and help keep the Flying Doctor flying.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity. And we're speaking with Ron Laurie, who's a specialist in human potential and the development of value systems. Ron, we've traced a fascinating spiritual essence through your life to this point. Now you're in Australia, you've come from Scotland, you've set up, was it 3 or 4 of these churches? You're actually involved in doing a level of preaching, you're actually involved in doing communion, and there's a sort of a spiritual component in that. What happened out of there? In
parallel to to going through the church, I was an avid reader, and I was always, as I said, trying to reconcile spiritual experiences or insights that I had, and where did they come from, trying to understand them for myself. I was interested in things of an esoteric nature as a result of that, and I came across a body of knowledge which was called transpersonal psychology, which talked about states of awareness that people have, which were not necessarily in a religious sort of context, and that deeply interested me, because here was a little bit of a study into what was being described as human potentials,
yes,
other than what might be seen ordinarily in everyday life. And so that took me down a track of inquiry into that area. And it's quite interesting, because the more I inquired about and bringing that sort of questioning into the organization, the Christian organization was that, the more alienated they made me feel. And the more alienated it made me feel, the more I realized that what is often said is not actually exhibited in behavior. And so I ended up, my wife and I, after putting a lot of time and effort into a lot of church, at a time of our lives when we had 2 children to look after, we decided to leave organized religion. And it was almost like walking out of one door and having it slammed behind you.
Yes.
And never to be spoken to again. So it was a lot of alienation happened.
Absolutely.
As a result of that, which confirmed a lot of things for me. And it kind of confirmed that I was perhaps on the right track, that there's more to this spirituality than what actually happens in a religious context. And so that made me more curious about those sorts of things.
Yeah, it's interesting. Oftentimes doors closing behind you do lead you into a greater level of awareness. But this transpersonal psychology, who were the authors behind that?
Well, there's a number of authors behind that. There's people such as Stanislav Grof, Ken Wilber, a number of theorists around about that time. Point in time.
Yep.
My entry into it came through interest in the Institute of Noetic Science, which was an institution put together by Edgar Mitchell, who was a former astronaut, who had what he would be described as the overview effect, having a look at the world from the cockpit of a spacecraft and seeing it as a little globe in the midst of nothingness.
Contextualized it.
Totally. And he had a profound shift, which he would describe as a sense of a spiritual insight at that point in time. So there's people like that, which I began to find all over the world in my research. This is about the time when the internet began to come online. And it was a tremendous research tool to use to realize I wasn't an oddball. I was quite normal to a certain extent about having these experiences, and to actually look for their meaning outside of a religious context.
I'll ask you a question which you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but in all of this, is there a God concept? Is there a divine being, a divine essence concept, which is carried forward from your religious experiences in the church into this new transpersonal awareness?
I used to have a concept, or what I would refer to as an objectification, external to myself, of a being of some sort, and I could relate to that. But in a sense, that I feel as if that was a sort of phase I was going through. My reference to it is more of an internal reference rather than an external reference. So when I speak, when I understand myself about my spirituality, it doesn't need an external objectification outside of myself. It's an inside experience, and my experience, and my unique experience, which is more real to me than any external icon or any external concept of God or religion.
And that sort of tends to play into sort of Ken Wilber and others' concept of the unity of the one, the wholeness, so that
absolutely.
it is one level of awareness, not separate ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, do you think there's any chance of a bridge between the transpersonal awareness, just to use that as the term? It's expanded beyond that, I know, but building a bridge to the theistic, church-structured, spiritual perspective. Have you seen any potential for a bridge?
Look, I'm not sure if it's a bridge I would describe it as. I see, and my experience has been, a lot of people within religious institutions who have dared to go beyond the dogma or the doctrine, and to explore for themselves what it is for themselves and ask themselves some quality questions. I see it more as a transition, as a transformation, which doesn't negate what has gone before, but it transcends and includes it. I'm still very much along the lines of appreciating where I've come from in my spiritual path and journey.
The issue of transcendence. Time has transcended our interview, but you're coming back next week, as I understand.
I think so.
That's terrific. Fantastic. You've been watching Harmony and Diversity, and next week we'll be returning with Ron to speak about transpersonal issues in greater detail.
Baha'u'llah, Shanti Om, Allahu
RSPCA, for all creatures, great and small.
Here are the current weather readings for Melbourne, Geelong, Ballarat, Shepparton, Bendigo and Echuca on the MELfeed video weather wall. It also includes tomorrow's forecast and expected minimum temperatures in these areas overnight. This is the MELfeed video weather wall on a different sort of TV. MELfeed Video. Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
Acts of omission. Last night I watched a man as he died. through my widescreen plasma window. Struck down by a car in the street outside, whose driver didn't stop or even slow. The man was not yet dead. A broken leg and hip he dragged by arms and shoulders from the road to lie exhausted on my nature strip. I dimmed my light, made sure he would not see me watch him dying in the street lamp's glow from some raw, ruptured inside injury, and fetched a chair to settle for the show. I could have helped, or maybe phoned someone, but chose to just observe, to watch instead, as blood breath bubbled from his lungs while 3 hours passed until I thought him dead. Of course, this is a fiction. It's not true. If ever there had been this injured man, I would have helped. To save him from the queue at heaven's gate with farmers from Sudan, escaping war and famine round Darfur, where white-faced vultures watch the doomed black poor.
I'm going to start with a poem about my father. He used to be a Footscray barracker and loved Teddy Whitten. Stewie. I remember following you onto our high-pitched tin roof and watching you paint it deep green. I was 2. I remember driving your car down the paddock as you went into the wool shed for legacy show fleeces. I was 5. I remember how I chased my brother around the yard with a lizard gripped by its neck, and later you told me a lizard bit your middle fingertip. Later, grinning, you showed me the gate in stall where your finger got jammed. I was 10. I remember the Anzac Day marches where you mustered the troops and led them down the main street of a little country town, a glint in your eye as our neighbour played the bagpipes. You called the diggers to attention with your sergeant's voice in front of the war memorial. You believed in karma, talked of your gold mining through the depression, of shooting rabbits and shearing time, about planting veggies by the Chinese moon, and how you were nicknamed Scotch Chow. At Trebrook they called you the old man in the grey shirt after telling a general to go pull his head in, watching the enemy in the desert and breaking their codes. I was proud to be your firstborn. For 19 years you were my dad. Your sons were nicknamed Emu and Blue, and I got Stewie, just like you.
This is entitled His Journey. His name has never been written nor been seen in a famous writer's novel, or his voice repeated over and over again due to a love song played on a scratched CD. Nor has he ever won a Logie in an intriguing television show such as Homicide or Water Rats. His world was one of art, painting naked women, the subject he loved most, sculpting different shapes and forms, writing a mean verse, cooking, they say, a mean curry. A man of old-fashioned values, he took as good as he got, gave everyone a chance, no matter who. He encouraged them all with his warm and friendly manner, his wicked sense of humour, his heckled corny jokes. He brought warmth into others' cold space. Now in Carlton, Ted's footsteps, ghostly footsteps, are engraved on the pavements he once walked on his friends at the Dan O'Connell, on those who loved him, those he has always loved. Thank you.
When Georgia invaded South Ossetia, news spews, computer screens, cold facts unwarmed, scouring the net in strange places, trace what happens, till distorted by sensation-obsessed journalists, politicians, uninterested in the facts of the matter. Get to the core, idiots, we scream. Who began it? Who feeds it? Look for the corridors of oil, of Western energy, and you're halfway there. Look for weapon sales, bases, troop exchange, and then you know the propaganda, the lies. The truth is, Georgia invaded South Ossetia. Genocide on its mind. George Bush lies. Georgia's president caught in the act lies. The truth is, Georgia invaded South Ossetia. Genocide on its mind. Thousands displaced. Thousands die. Genocide was never a good idea.
What I give is love, is life. In the name of the world, its dust, its strife. To stand or fall is not enough. To walk this world in love of life. Here I am, above the crowd. In one long breath I shout out loud. I stand, I fall, it's not enough. To just walk this world in love with life. Here we stand, we are the crowd. In love of life, we shout out loud. In dust and strife, we stand, we fall. We give ourselves for one, for all.
Now on MELfeed Video, here are the latest Monday Tats Lotto results just drawn a short time ago under government supervision. All results shown are subject to confirmation. We hope that these numbers brought you a little bit of luck tonight. If not, there's always next week. Stay tuned to MELfeed Video for more great programs this evening.
Playing the 80s on Air FM 88.0.
Hi, this is Darren McAlane from Air FM Drive. Join me from 3 to 6 p.m. every afternoon on 88.0 in Penrith, and also you can catch me on tunein.com. That's from 3 to 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time.
Playing the 80s on Air FM 88.0.
With the warmer months upon us, here are some poolside safety tips. Because not everyone can swim like Clarkie and I. S is for supervision. Always have an adult watching over the kids. A is for Oswim. Have your children taught to swim by an Oswim licensed teacher. F is for fencing. Ensure secure fencing surrounds your pool. E is for emergencies. Always be prepared. R is for rule. Ensure your family know the rules around your pool. Be safer and have fun.
Man to man. It's time to stop.
Stop the tragic waste of life and the destruction of families, including your own.
Stop blaming drugs and alcohol and believing that walking away makes you weak.
Stop thinking you're a hero and wasting your life behind bars, wishing you could take that one moment back.
Stop the coward's punch.
The following program carries an MA classification and may contain adult themes and coarse language. MELfeed Video advises that it is suitable for viewers aged 15 plus.
And this piece was inspired by random name generating machines on the web. Random regenerate me.
Random regenerate me. It's as easy as enter your name and click go. Do it 9 times, you can have 9 lives. These are my 9 lives. Rosary Bathory, unknown, unrecorded daughter of the more well-known Elizabeth. Abandoned as a babe, was her murderous mother looking for her? Belladonna Silverfire, beautiful lady, taken by the fairies, taught to shoot a most elegant arrow, versed in the language of birds, friend to the forest. Aurora Sorrow, writing in her study the latest adventures of a tragic doomed heroine, popular fiction for ladies, stares out her window, there's a shadow across the street, whispers, it's him. Luna Icy Grave, fallen from the sky, muses upon her human translated name. They believe she comes from the moon. Should she tell them? Dementia Cobweb, gazing in her mirror, records the past when spiders wove her gowns. In her plain linen smock she never felt so mortal. Astarte Dragon's Blood sits proudly on her steed, surveys the desert landscape where once dwelt her city, kicks in her spurs and flies. Demonica Funeral Flowers adjusts the clockwork mechanism attached to her veil, sends sparks along the fine silver filaments, ready for communication with the elders. Medea Blacklitter, witchy metalworker, admires her latest design, displayed on the body of a dandy young princeling knight, his wedding armour. She wants to design his bride's dress too. Wolfilla Burning Souls, keeper of the undead, pads through the undergrowth on woven paws, smells the night blooms on the graves, howls at the moon, remembers all her lives, and begins to write.
No poems today. There's no poems today. My lover's gone away, holding a classic dry red and trying to open it, clean glass in the other hand, dancing in the dark to Springsteen's greatest hits. I'm looking for inspiration, as there's no poems in my head. The cork is dry and remnants float in my wine, as wanted as whales in an oil slick. At last the red fluid splutters into my glass, like a burst water main. I rub the spots into the carpet, hoping they'll disappear, like invisible ink. Teeth tear at a crunchy bread roll, saw like a saw to wood, a chunk of cheese gnawed at, a rodent feasting, but still there's no poems in my head. When will the poems start gelling in my brain? It's like a paper bag. Red wine splashes on my wind cheater. I grope for inspiration like coloured red wine. I hold the glass to the light, a deity by which thoughts could transpose to paper. This is bad, I say, have another drink. Bruce is in his glory days, but you haven't had yours yet. Not if I need inspiration in the chemicals of red wine, and still there's no poems in my head. My love of poetry is unrequited, like a pop song love. There's no poems burning for the page, only the numbing effect of classic dry red, permeating my brain cells, altering the chemistry in my head. There's no poems in my head, just the ravings of a red wine drinker looking for inspiration. There's no poems in my head, just chemicals swimming the channel of existence. There's no poems in my head, just booze-numbing reality. There's no poems in my head. I'm brain dead. There's no poems today.
First thing in the morning, I look at you, my love, at the lines etching your strong face, your closed lids covering your dark eyes that hide the lust of an indulgent lover, whose passionate glances kindles the flame of one's being, of each lovely woman who has become the sinful hurt through your realm of wickedness, the betrayal of their innocence in search of radiant love, burnt, betrayed by you, my love, my untold idol. I keep your lunzes in a closed heart, my love, until the dream fades, as does the image of you lying here. Thank you.
This is just a short one. Inspiration escapes me. By the time I've taken wine, glasses, pen, paper, radio with headphones out into the backyard for a cigarette, inspiration escapes me. I inject smoke into myself like poison. Radio stations are sick. The cat tries to chase off night insects. My girlfriend goes to sleep 2 closed doors away, and the full moon sky is big. That's it.
I'll do a poem that was in the Dan Poets 10 Years thing. It's called Coffee. I was actually quite addicted to coffee, and after I wrote this I became unaddicted. It's a very strange sort of thing. But coffee. Coffee, my friend, I love you. Mon ami, je t'aime. Amico mio, ti amo, amigo. For my body chemicals, you're sensual, risque, erogenous, an aphrodisiac. Oh, the aroma, the tang, the spice, the scent of Brazilian affogato. Coffee, you elate, intoxicate, stimulate, invigorate, motivate, rejuvenate, activate, animate, exhilarate, inebriate, initiate, palpate, indoctrinate. But I'm not addicted, just dependent. Coffee, straight black, espresso, cappuccino, mocha, cafe freddo sambucas, espresso corretto, latte macchiato, cafe latte, double grand macchiato, greco, affogato, decaf, half and half with or without foam. I'm not addicted, just a connoisseur of freshly ground beans, Arabica, Robusta. And Jane said of her radiant spilt coffee over Locke's poetry. Coffee, I love you, but I'm not addicted. L'amour del café, voici et noni addicted. Café, oh, that's in some other language, I can't read that. I have to skip that. I'm just dependent, deferential, complacent. Coffee and focaccia, gelato, risotto, nougat. Ah, caffeine, my friend.
It's always been my dream to represent Australia in the Olympics. Epilepsy affects nearly 250,000 Australians. Like me, most people have their seizures controlled with medication. Even today, people with epilepsy face incredible discrimination, but this prejudice is just another obstacle we can overcome. We're just as capable as anyone else, and often we have to be stronger. I promise I'll do my best for Australia. Will you do your best for me?
Behind every great athlete, there is a great support network. Australian Athletes with a Disability and Wheelchair Sports Australia help athletes realise their full potential.
Gonna go from 3. Yes!
No matter their ability, we're there to support them. Sporting opportunities for all abilities. For more information, visit sports.org.au.
Here are some brilliant news for adults who have difficulties with spelling, reading a newspaper or phone bill, or writing letters and emails. It can be easier to improve your reading and writing skills than to keep putting it off. Take the plunge. Call the Reading Writing Hotline, 1300 655506.
1300 655506.
It could change your life.
It was a dark and stormy night in a bar over a strawberry margarita. Steve and Jacqueline had time to kill, so they decided to slaughter it. The result, 15 fabulous minutes. You be the judge.
It'll match your teeth, Albert. My elder daughter, who's nearly 25, has said quite a few Libran things to me over the years, and I've pinched some of her good lines. And this one is, "You should wear yellow, it'll match your teeth." That's from her. It'll match your teeth, Albert. You should wear yellow, it'll match your teeth, Albert. Way out in the Milky Way, life forms study us, strange creatures with strange habits. A white mosquito net hangs from the ceiling. Way out in the Milky Way, life forms study us. Death is the beginning of a long story. A white mosquito net hangs from the ceiling. Death tells you about the life that went before. Death is the beginning of a long story. The white fan whirs above a black brass bed. Death tells you about the life that went before. Bad women do what others think about. The black fan whirs above a black brass bed. Albert looks good in latex and leather. Bad women do what others think about. Roly-poly Christy gorges on blueberries. Albert looks good in latex and leather. The years have not mellowed Albert. Roly-poly Christy gorges on blueberries. No one has ever died from an untidy kitchen. The years have not mellowed Albert. No one has ever died from an untidy kitchen. Strange creatures with strange habits. You should wear yellow, it'll match your teeth, Albert.
Hi, my name is Rex. It's my first time, and I'm being told that I'm a virgin, so there we go, eh? All right. The first one is called Throwaway Society in a Takeaway World. Whales struggle for numbers when it's all said and done. Copious amounts of their blood splattered across the horizon of the darkened rising sun. Oil slick have been many major hints. Despots are too busy keeping tabs on their moves made down at the Mint, while couch potatoes are watching B-grade movies starring Clint, checking out their navels and picking out their lint. Dolphins squealing, strangled in brewery plastic, deformed fish swimming sideways, chemically spastic, four-eyed sharks lurking in the shadows, one-eyed eels are mightier than the sword. Evolution has finally struck a chord. The desalinated sea lets rip a thunderous mighty roar, punching enormous tidal waves upon the battered shore. Warming up has never been its plan. Ecology ruined by the selfish acts of man. Seagulls fly around forever, stray, have no legs to help them land. Revenge from their old prey, starving in mid-air, makes it hard to understand. Media focused on unreality TV, mindless glossy magazines, unknown celebrity gone mad, incorrigible the earth's and ocean's plight, struggles to make print our insular lives well clad.
This one's called Slam. You slam at the dance and they're slamming at the Dan. So Saturday at the Dan, the poets are on a mission. You see, it's the last of the competition. One by one they get up on the stand. Be it orally, verbal, maybe even a chant. So all this poetry can get measured on a yardstick. Hey, if you throw kale shit up in the air and it stays there, it's bullshit, right? Like these like these words that get judges confused, like they're stuck in some boggy marsh. Tell you can stick your slams up your ass.
This one is called Shaken and Stirred. We were shaken and stirred when we heard the news, moved by compassion that reached deep into our hearts, so that we, in response, reached deep into our pockets, giving all we could and sometimes more. Yet compassion, doled out in buckets, soon finds the well is empty, and like love, fades with the passing of time, until we ask, where did the power of the emotion go, and when? After that, black and white become redundant, and shades of grey take form as we weigh and measure our response and our assistance, so that when the world moves again, We are shaken, but not stirred.
The last one's called Tick-Tock. Lonely grey unplanned, barren stony land, solitary tent, salvage working 9 to 5 just to pay the rent. Bitter life crisis formality, giving up dreams for reality, closing my eyes, visualise, nothing starts to crystallise. Days listed sanitised, distorted, any creative thoughts ostensibly aborted. Tick-tock, writer's block, got to go to work. Tick-tock, writer's block, got to go to work. Early morning dread, corporate concrete head, mashed potato mind, going back to bed. Cheap suit and tie, immediately shed. Plethora of magic verse, would-be heaven sent. Abracadabra, full moon rising, veined acid washed horizon, penny for more thoughts. Tick-tock, writer's block, stare at the clock, gotta go to work. Tick-tock, stare at the clock, making me go berserk. Tick-tock, brace us flock, never, ever, ever going back to work. Word, wonderful words, now forming. Flowing euphoric, here they come, out they soared, confident soaring, for I'm the juggernaut. Thank you.
Hi, coming up next is 15 fabulous minutes where Jacqueline and Steve are going out to global ballooning in the Yarra Valley, I think, in today's episode. So that was recorded around about 1999-2000 era. And then we head into Transports of Distant Delight, which is the third episode in the special series just for MELfeed. So enjoy that, and we'll see you again next week.
So how have things been going?
When a young person is diagnosed with cancer, it affects their family, their friends, their entire world. Red Kite supports young people with cancer and those around them in real ways.
Yeah, hi, it's Michael. Yeah, I'm at the hospital.
We rely on your generosity to make a positive difference in the lives of thousands of families every year. We can't always make things better, but with your help, we can lighten the load.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
Good morning to everybody here this morning. It's Saturday morning and we're in Yarra Valley and we're going ballooning. And I'm wondering whether everybody's awake here. You awake?
Yep, not a problem.
It was a bit of a struggle to get out of bed this morning to come ballooning.
Yes, it was actually. I'm actually not going up, but it's my mum's birthday. I'm on the videotape, but the videotape's dead, so I'm just here for my mum's birthday now.
Fantastic. So why did you decide not to fly this morning? Fear of heights? Chicken down?
Cost.
Okay, there you go. Money talks, or doesn't in this case. And a happy birthday. Okay, great. We'll have to have many happy returns later on, no doubt. Maybe up in the balloon. So do you want to maybe give us a bit of an indication of why you decided to go up in a balloon? Was that your sort of childhood dream?
My father-in-law went for a tandem jump out of an aeroplane when he was 80, so I figured I could do something like this for my special birthday.
Did he survive the jump? Survived?
He survived.
Yeah.
He actually did that, yes, but I'm going to survive my balloon ride.
Fantastic. And yourselves, why did you decide to go ballooning on a Sunday morning? How romantic.
For that very reason. This is a special weekend away and it's a bit of a surprise. My husband didn't know until this morning. He just
late notice.
Well, he knew that there was to be a flight and he was second guessing, you know, he's a what did you say?
A tiger moth.
Tiger moth and you know, hang gliding and goodness knows, and then this morning it was divulged that it was ballooning. I in fact have ballooned before and I thought it was so special. We should do it again, together.
Share it together.
Yeah.
Have you got any tips you'd like to share with us today about ballooning?
Take lots of photos. It's spectacular, and it's just very special. I mean, it's quiet. You don't think it will be, and except for when the flames are happening, and it's just a beautiful experience.
We've got the marshmallows.
Thanks, Dave. Oh, yeah, thanks. Lost.
Around the valley.
What's your expectations of today and why are you ballooning?
Well, it's a birthday present for their children. We didn't find out about this till 1 o'clock this morning.
We're living in the now and leaving everything to the last moment. No time to chicken out, probably.
Well, they must have known we wanted to do it one day, so our birthdays came up and this is how we ended up on this trip.
Happy birthday. Yes, my happy birthdays. And you've got any expectations of what the balloon ride's going to be like?
Frightening, I think. Yes, I was a bit scared last early hours this morning at 1 o'clock when I was informed, but no, I'm looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Okay, everybody, we'll see you next when we get on the balloon, I'd imagine.
We're heading to Steele's Creek. We're going to launch from there and head south from the northern end of the valley.
I'll put the hat on.
So if you gather around the back here, folks in if we could. We've got to get our pieces. Ready on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Paper to sign. And again, let's try that again. All together. Hang on. All together. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
A team effort here at Global Ballooning to get this wicker basket happening and the balloon up in the air so we can join these people here.
We go. We've got the fan done. We here on the show we have to put an effort in, and hang on. There you go. Oh, I tell you, it's hard work, but somebody's got to do it. And
So when does a balloon get too full that it's like an overfull elevator and it plummets to the earth? How many people in a balloon?
This basket carries 16 passengers. The balloon itself is 300,000 cubic feet of air, and it stands about 120 foot high.
And why don't you have parachutes for people, or you don't need them?
You're much safer off staying with the balloon. People who don't know to parachute are much more dangerous than actually coming down for the ride with us, so it's much safer to stay with the basket. And we've never needed one in the past, so I can't see why.
It's all first.
okay, what do I need to do now? Do you need any help? Yeah, I found a rope. I'll just do my job. Is there anything else you need? Oh, that's cool. Just go for coffee, shall we?
Low take this white band. I want you to pull on that only. Coming for this side. I want you to pull on this one. And about 2/3 of the way down is its widest point. So we just want to work our way down there and pull it out.
Okay, just over here if you need me. Just here if you need me to lend a hand. Just say when.
Oh, I tell you what, I had my baked beans this morning, so I've got a lot of wind, and I think you need a lot of wind to blow this thing up. Have a look how big this is. This is one mother of a balloon, so take a few deep breaths, because there's a lot of blowing.
And the winner of the most glamorously dressed ballooning person this morning goes to you. You look absolutely sensational, I have to say. You dressed beautifully for the occasion, from head to toe. What's the occasion today? Special as a birthday or a celebration?
Oh, it was actually a Valentine's present to my boyfriend about a couple of months ago, so we just chose this weekend to come down and do it.
Oh, how romantic. So have you decided to stay overnight as well and do a bit of a bed and breakfast?
Yeah, we actually stayed over here last night, and got here way too early this morning. I think
really?
I think we were a bit too keen.
Today?
Yes, we are.
You're so rugged up. You've got leather gloves on, you've got your boots on, scarf, hat, thermals?
Ready? No thermals. That's why I'm rugged up.
Okay. So what do you expect today? What are you expecting from the flight? A bit scared?
I don't know, but on Thursday, Friday, when I was telling my friends who were going out, they were telling me of all the balloons they heard they'd crash. So where I wasn't nervous, I felt it there. Yes.
Is it really fun?
Oh, it should be fun.
Yeah, is this the part of the fun actually working?
Oh, well, yeah, I suppose. Yeah, like it's absolutely fantastic. Once you get up in the air, it's pretty smooth. It's a nice ride.
Do you think these guys would probably be good for party plan? You know, for doing the balloons at home for your kids' parties and stuff?
Oh, yeah, why not? Yeah, why not? You give them a few balloons, a few elephant men or something to make. No worries.
Oh, who needs gloves? This is fantastic. You know, this is better than those things at Southgate. You know, the whoosh like that when they go up.
Oh my God, there's a hole in the balloon. There's a whopping big... Look, there's a whopping big hole in here. It's huge. I think I'm letting all the air out. Have a look in here. It's an amazing view. Come inside the balloon. It's like being in one of those virtual reality worlds. Look at that. It's getting there. But what about the hole? We're going to fix it?
It's a rotation vent. It's staying for the flight.
It's staying. What do they actually use it for?
To rotate the balloon around.
So you open up a flap and it turns around.
The air rushes out of the flap and it turns the balloon around so that you can see things on the other side.
Fantastic. Okay, things have got to move. This is what it's like inside a balloon. This is the main high point. Looks pretty special. I don't want to tear the balloon. And just get a good shot of that. And the mouth of the balloon where the basket is just behind me. Oops. And I'm tripping over everything. Oh, we can just stay in here for hours, don't you think? Okay, we're getting told off. We've got to go. We've got to go.
Oh, that was hectic. It was all happening. Noise, cameras, lights, action. Steve snoring. Didn't lift a finger to help. There you go. Oh, why doesn't the...
Quickly as we can.
Climbing board as quickly as we can. Why doesn't the balloon get burnt by the hot thing?
The hot thing. Welcome aboard. At some stage we will land, and then we'll be flying in a southerly direction. We will land, and at some stage we'll say, guys, please take your landing positions. When I mention landing positions, a couple of things I'd like to see you doing. Number one, stashing your cameras inside your jackets, up your jumpers, basically so they're not going to swing around and hit you or your neighbour in the head. So cameras away, all turning around to face your pilot. So what we'll do is adopt a landing position where everybody's facing me, one person behind the other. Let's practice that. Looks kind of silly, but let's practice it. One person behind the other, all facing me, tucking our hip into the padding of the basket. Just going to get the balloon now as hot as we can, as quickly as we can. This is a hot, noisy part of the morning to get the balloon up to flying temperature.
Oh my God! Everybody was like ants out there. That's incredible. Oh, our ants.
As we're landing, and especially when we're flying low and on our landing approach, particularly important to mention things like we're constantly looking for things like stock animals in small horse yards behind houses, power lines as well across the area that we're landing in. What I like to do is if you see stock in behind houses, if you see stock anywhere, even at 1,000-2,000 feet, just mention, can you see the horses down there, can you see the cows over that side? I'm probably aware of them, already noted them, but I don't mind. 16 eyes are better than 2.
This is your captain speaking. We're now ready for takeoff. As you will notice, the flight attendants will be showing their exits here and here. If you need to get out, I suggest you don't. Does anyone need to go to the toilet? Because you better do it now. It's not going to be a good look if you stick your butt over the end and go for it, yes.
Well, it's almost up and away over there for the 16 people and the Shandong hot air balloon, Shandong Australia. The champagne breakfast to follow. Perfect way to start the day. Found out that the lady across from me's got a fear of heights, so a little bit late to tell us that, but anyway, it doesn't feel like we're even up.
And now it's squishy in here. We're going to swap over. We're getting a beautiful view behind us of the mountains here, a little bit of fog over it. You just float. It's not bumpy. Smooth ride. Oh my God, now the ants are people. This is scary. We're going over someone's backyard. She's got red underwear on the washing line. You know.
The main part of the Yarra Valley opens out down there to the south, the high point, the Dandenongs. You can see where the transmission towers are. Out to the southwest, the city, Christmas Hills over here on the to the west, Sugarloaf Reservoir and the Winnicky Complex. Catchment area just over here is the one that's visible. Hillsville, just tucked in over the hills out here to the east at this stage.
Sun's actually shining.
Tim, I'm just wondering, what is the fascination with rich entrepreneurs and global ballooning? The Bransons of this world, why are they getting into ballooning?
I guess it's the challenge of doing something a little bit different, something that, and the weather we don't have complete mastery of, so there's always that little bit of the unknown. It's man against the elements. I'll just burn here for a second. Ballooning conversation is 3 words and a burn, so you get to speak fluent balloon after a while.
And how's your stomachs doing back here?
Yeah, fine. Yeah,
no problem?
No problems.
Is this the first time you've been up? Tell us about it.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm flying, top of the world.
Yeah, no, it's pretty spectacular. Yeah.
Do you guys need a little moment to yourself? Perhaps we can all move down this end of the basket and do a little romantic thing.
No, no,
Sure?
no. Yeah, no
Sure,
step.
you don't want to kiss and cuddle. We'll all look that way. Look over there, everybody. It's the city. It's the city. Look.
Ballooning it's one of the last things that really people haven't gotten on top of. We've got great aeroplanes, we can set records and have done lots of world records, yachts with the engines and great sails, but balloons we still need to work with the weather, and I guess that's a challenge. That's a challenge for people. Plus and people like Brent's get great exposure, and people always love the sight of a balloon. And the feats that these guys have been doing across Australia, around the world, are just amazing. As you can see in the planning that goes into just setting up and preparing for an hour's sunrise flight involves a lot of preparation, of weather checking, a lot of everybody involving. So you can imagine just what it takes to set up and plan for a flight that's going to maybe take you 3, 4, 5 days or around the world. That's a great effort.
Now you've got lots of little things here. It's all very complicated in the cockpit here of the global ballooning balloon. No champagne, I noticed.
The champagne, we thought it was safer with you guys after this morning. We were a pretty rowdy bunch, so we thought we'd leave the champagne on the ground and go back and enjoy the champagne at Ferguson's winery after. No, the balloon is a registered aircraft, so we need to carry the essential aircraft equipment. Altimeters, variometers tell us our altitude, how quickly we're climbing or descending. Radios to stay in touch with each of the balloons. And also our ground crew, because they're going to come along and meet us when we land, so we need to stay in radio contact with them. We can see where we're going to land, we can see the roads, but they can't. So.
How's it going back here? How many photos have you got?
Quite a few.
Do you know a video you can capture the whole lot without taking 12 photos?
So where do you learn to fly a balloon? Is there like a balloon flying school, or you have to get a certain licence to do that?
There is, yeah, as we mentioned, the balloon is a registered aircraft, so you need to be a licensed commercial pilot to fly it. Not necessarily a Cessna pilot or a jumbo pilot, although some of the subjects in the training is the same. Instead of studying things like wings and propellers and carburetors, we study fabrics and propane and inertia and spend more time on the weather.
Now that thing is flaming hot. What sort of gas do you use?
We use propane, as pure as we can get it, LPG, similar to what you run the Falcon or the Commodore on, except a little bit more pure propane because it burns cleaner, a lot more energy efficient.
How hot does it get in there?
Anywhere from 90 degrees to about 110 degrees.
And we're down here freezing. Are you sure you couldn't pipe it through the basket?
The typical ballooning scenario is nice warm heads, reasonably warm middles, but pretty cold toes.
Now, I'm just a bit curious. What does this one do? Can I pop?
My ears are going funny. In a balloon. It's absolutely fantastic up here. We're just flying over Yarra Glen at the moment. Yeah, so I won't be back for breakfast. So how's things there?
Adopting those landing positions that we spoke about, remember all turning around and facing me, one person behind the other, keeping those rope handles in your hands. Keep all of your arms and digits in the basket as we're landing as well. Well done. Everybody enjoy their flying?
Yeah.
Save ourselves.
once you go all your weight back on, you need your weight back on the basket. That's easy to put the
The balloon behind us is now deflating. It's a fantastic trip and I recommend it by 100% to do this one. It's well worth it. It's like flying, a little bit noisy, but very enjoyable.
Okay, now before that bubble comes back, get your arms underneath the fabric and scoop it into the middle. That's it. And I'll come through and squeeze the last bit out. So we're just going to repeat that process. So everybody get their hands on the balloon somewhere. A big push. And now bring the material into the middle. And we're just going to keep repeating that process. So another big push.
Believe it or not, but Jacqueline's actually doing her job, which is unfortunate because I just have to stand here and watch and laugh.
Squeezing out these last few bubbles. Okay, the people in the bag, you have to bring that forward. Start squeezing the fabric. Okay, that's it. That's it.
I think canoeing generally last year. And like, as long as 20 wins.
Okay, everybody else?
Yeah.
Okay, we're just going to relax for a minute.
No one said this was a medial fire down there, though. There you go, but I don't just... Oh, you're smiling more than aren't we?
It takes about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on how fast you are, to deflate the balloon, pack it up and put it away. And we're going to head on back down to the chateau for a bit of champagne breakfast, and we'll just interview some people and see how they enjoyed their trip.
Champagne, guys, don't be bashful. Hands up. Keep your eye on that gentleman. Carrying a bottle of champagne on board the balloon, so they're actually flying just outside of Paris in the edge of the Champagne district, and the French had just developed the champagne method. Now, outside of that region, champagne was almost unknown, and certainly outside of Paris, outside of France, it just didn't exist. So their reasoning was that if they had a bottle of champagne on board, wherever they landed in the local area, the locals would probably recognise them as good Frenchmen, because they had the champagne with them, make them welcome, and that would solve all of their problems. So that's exactly what they did. Now, failing that, it was probably going to make some sort of handy defensive implement at any rate, but the original intentions were entirely honourable. Stand here with champagne in our hands, without being at all embarrassed. We're simply upholding the traditions. Okay? And who are we to buck the system?
Now, you weren't actually meant to go up, were you?
No,
but you did.
That's right.
You probably regretted that move.
Yes, a bit, but it was good all the same.
Tell us about your experience.
Well, I guess it was just a few things, actually. Just the...
For all those who don't know, he was a little airsick and threw up over the edge.
We're trying to not get that in, but anyway.
Okay, sorry, we won't say that.
That's all right. Yeah, just got a bit too much. And
do you have a thing with heights? Or
No, I like it actually, and I want to go skydiving as well. So just hopefully it won't happen then. Otherwise, I can race it down. But
Has it always been a dream of yours to go up in a hot air balloon?
Yes, it has. It was really something I've always wanted to do. So
why is that, do you think? Why is it such a fantastic looking thing to do?
Because I think it's so peaceful and relaxing, and that's exactly what it was.
Were you surprised at how quiet it was up there, apart from the helium or whatever it was, went like that?
Yes. When they turned that off, it was so quiet, and just to see the animals below not be disturbed, it was really wonderful.
So what's the next sort of like in-flight thing, entertainment that you've got planned, to think?
Well, I think I'd love to do one over the city now and have a look at the city buildings.
Now, would you recommend coming here?
Oh, without doubt, yeah. It's fantastic, just being involved in the flight, and when I say involved, getting it up, getting it down.
You have a problem getting it up?
The flight?
Oh, the flight.
The flight? No, it seemed to have...
'Cause you two are not married yet, are you?
Yes.
You are? Oh, okay.
We don't have a problem getting them.
Getting it, as in...
It doesn't deflate on you like the balloons either. No, that's
Can we
fine.
start again?
No?
Well, Steve, so ends a fantastic day here at Ferguson's Winery. They have global ballooning. It's absolutely amazing.
What a way to go. Get high naturally.
Yes, absolutely. Well,
Now
hey,
let's get pissed.
yes, tradition.
Cheers.
Tradition continues.
I say we hit the wine fields. What do you reckon?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyone said the sick bags?
Transports of Distant Delight is a mixed selection of transportation pictures from here and there and almost everywhere, but not quite. Some quirky, some mundane, some from the past, perhaps reflecting a transit system that has vanished into history, and some from thriving transport entities that continue to endure despite the constant pressures from the all-pervasive motorcar. Enjoy.
I didn't think this could happen in Toowoomba. And then I saw it on TV that night. It really opened my eyes.
Whenever the community comes to us and says we need your help, we do whatever we can to assist.
It is a great feeling to be able to help your neighbours, to be able to help your community.
Each Lions member and each Lions club in different parts of the country, so we're totally different. But we have core values that are the same. They remain the same for any Lions member and any Lions club anywhere in not just Australia but around the world.
Anything that you can think of that you want to do and support and help, Lions are doing it right now somewhere in this world.
I think Lions need to tell their story. They need to let people know the amazing things that they do.
The three major streams that we have in Lions are the community service that we do for the public, health and medical research, and the disaster relief.
We're out there to help people. If you love helping people, get out and help them. Join a Lions Club.
We started this project about 20 years ago. All this gear would normally go to the tip. We recycle it and give it to someone less fortunate and where it is needed in the world.
Being a Lion here in Australia means that I can make a difference to my community. But most importantly, it's inspiring other people to get out and be part of their community and make it a safer and a much happier and better place to live.
Childhood cancer, I've always been interested in cancer and small children from the time I first got cancer 30 years ago. Research is an indefinite item. You can't see it, but it helps so much.
I'm here managing the money and the relationships, but other people are out there raising funds and bringing in community support. Without all of us working together, we can't affect change.
2 more extra hands at any function, any working bee, anything we do, 2 more hands can help us raise more funds, can help us serve our community better.
I went to my Lions Club and I said, I got this idea and I think it's a little bit crazy, but I think we could raise some serious money doing it. And it was to run 100 kilometres. And the club said, okay, if you want to do this, whatever you need us to do, we'll be there 100%. And I'm pretty proud to say that together we raised just over $16,000. So we blew the target out of the water, and I think that was due to a lot of the support that I got.
Through my leadership training and all that, I've learned about thinking global, acting local, and Lions Club is definitely that kind of thing. They act within their communities, but the money that they raise can often end up in any corner of the world.
As an individual, I could only do so much, and whilst it was my burning desire to try and help these people, having an organisation such as the Lions family to call upon to support me and those people that were working with me just made it possible for us to achieve so much more.
You know, after the devastation, to come back into the community, you know, you were shattered by what you saw. You know, no police station, no post office, no petrol station, you know, no kindergarten. There was nothing here.
And all that water with an unstoppable.
I don't know that I've ever seen as much as arrived. There were fridges, washing machines, dryers. There was toasters, jugs, just everything.
To be invited to be a part of Lions just opened up a whole new world to me. A world that provided a structured organisation that could see that the hours that I volunteered could achieve so much more.
I think Lions is a wonderful organisation. The people in it have charity in their hearts.
I can go anywhere in this country, see somebody with a Lions badge, walk up to them and say, "Good day, you got a friend."
Never once in my life had I had a group of people where I could go to, say anything, and know that no matter what, they would be there, they would stand by me.
It's the family. That's what we call it's the Lions family. Without Lions, I think I'd be lost now because they've been my life.
We work hard, but the most important thing is we have fun.
The fellowship of all the members of the club, the broader community, it's just a tremendous organisation to belong to. You know, I'll be here till I die.
It is extremely rewarding and gratifying to be a part of an organisation that can spread its support so far and wide.
More members means more hands, means more support to the community.
I would encourage everyone just to give it a go and see if it is for them, because the return that you get for giving to others is amazing.
Get out there, do something wonderful, be part of this fantastic organisation.
For interesting and informative interviews, join us for NAT Chat Monday nights at 8. Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV. Live streamed from Echuca each week, MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV. Live streamed from Echuca each week, MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
They say there's a chance I could die in a car crash, maybe even from heart disease, maybe even skin cancer.
I could die in a work-related accident, or I could die in a fight.
The fact is, the biggest cause of death for men in my age group is suicide.
Please don't let this happen to me.
You can do something. Lifeline believes that suicide is mostly preventable. Help us save lives. Find out what you can do at lifeline.org.au.
MELfeed Video is about to close operations for tonight, but we'll be back with you next Monday evening. In the meantime, here is a selection of programs that will be seen on our next scheduled web stream. You're welcome to visit our website at MELfeed.video for further details of this project. Until next time, from all of us here at MELfeed Video, we wish you a very good night.